do this. Let's select this guy right here in the folder 7. I'm going to right-click and open it up. Nice image. I want to save it. Well, it's already saved. I understand that. If we go up to the word File and go down Save As, you will notice that it is saving it in the format that it came to me in, which is JPEG, because we haven't really done anything to it. But we have worked on images that began as JPEGs, and it suggested we save it as a PSD, mainly because of the fact that we did things to it like, remove the background, add a couple of layers, things that JPEG doesn't support. And so it automatically said, he better save this as a PSD. But you can do that now. Now, the formats I want to talk about, we have looked at JPEG and we've looked at the GIF formats and talked about the PNG one. But the two formats for quality and for portability are Photoshop and TIFF at the top and at the bottom. Photoshop, I would recommend saving images as PSDs for a lot of reasons. But one of the main reasons is if you are using other Adobe products like Photoshop the Big Guy, Adobe Illustrator, InDesign. I love InDesign. The whole idea here is that Photoshop is the native format of Adobe products. And although it's not any better or worse than a TIFF, it will run and work faster on large images than the TIFF. But if you're going out to other things, other programs that are non-Adobe products, different operating systems, you might want to save it as a TIFF. TIFF supports everything that Photoshop does. Multiple layers, all the styles, everything will go along with it. But in some ways, it's more compatible. But the downside is it might run a little bit slower when you're working. Now, Photoshop doesn't really have options, but let's go to TIFF. Let's go ahead and save. Now, your options will begin with what type of compression you want to use, including none. LZW and ZIP are lossless. It's kind of like a sponge that dries out, you add water, comes back. You haven't lost anything. JPEG, do not forget, is a lossy compression system. It makes things really small, but it does it by throwing things away. So be careful if you're going to use JPEG on a really good quality image. A lot of times I use none because I don't know my client. And the reason I do that is because if you're using LZW and ZIP, the person on the other end has to have an application that will uncompress it. If they've got Elements and they got Editor, they're fine, okay? But what if they don't? They may not be able to open the image. So if I don't really know my client, I actually might choose none. Pixel order is not really as important as it used to be years ago. Interleaved is probably the most compatible, so I'd leave it there. Byte order down here, I leave that on IBM even though I'm working on a Macintosh. Why? Because Macs have no problem with byte order, and really IBMs really don't anymore either. But there are older systems that might have trouble if you give somebody one that's Macintosh and they're opening it up on an IBM. Image Pyramid saves your images in multiple resolutions, and programs like InDesign can open them, but not really that many more. But if you want to use that one, you can. We don't have transparency. If we did, that would be available. But here's the thing. If you leave that off, assuming it was available, and you save the image, all your transparent areas will be filled with white. So if you want transparency and you have it, make sure you turn that on. Now, we don't have any layers for compression, but you have RLE, zip, and discard. RLE is the best one to use here. It saves a bigger file, but it's a faster save. So you have to make these decisions before you click OK on a TIFF image. Let's go ahead and get out of here and go back into our organizer. So if you're saving images for quality and portability, PSD and TIFF are the two you're probably going to be looking at.